I had an opportunity to walk through a part of this facility. We're in Dalton, Georgia. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of equipment here, equipment that it looks like duplicates the equipment of your customers. So you can run their product on your machines. Talk about the process and what you learned from doing that.
Well, we found that we had to have good pilot equipment. Just about every business segment that we're in, whether it's injection molding for interior automotive applications, the type of mold that you used, the tonnage of the clamp pressure, the size of the part was all important. And so you had to prototype everything. But when we get back into specific topics of fiber applications, we had to prototype fiber spinning equipment to understand the factors that go back into air quench, to understand the necessity of draw, because you're taking filament and you have to get into a 3-to-1 draw for most carpet applications, and how you have to texturize that filament, because texturizing is going to give you a dramatic change in the appearance of the color. So if you don't get your filament thickness in the cross-section of the filament, whether it's a trilobal or if it's a round cross-section, those all have appearance effects on the color. Either it lightens it or darkens it, which is an appearance issue. And so you have to duplicate the cross-section. You have to duplicate the texturing of it, whether it's a false twist or air jet texturizing, etc. When you get into monofilament, all these factors are the same. You have to understand if the pigment or the additives influence not only color matching, but do they have any influence in regards to the customer's process. So you don't want to put something in that's going to have a negative effect upon the customer's process.
So then sometimes after you would run it through one of these extruders, say here, you may have to tweak it and change something to get exactly the color that you want, or maybe do it 2 or 3 times.
We would like to say that you don't have to do it 2 or 3 times, but again, that does happen. So it depends on how well our equipment correlates back to and what we've learned. But there's a lot of learning that you can program into how you design a product.
I gotcha. And you've got several facilities, and you do this all over the world then.
We do this for fiber applications. We do this in Manchester, England, and we do this in Suzhou, China. But for fibers, not only Dalton, but Concord, North Carolina. And we have fiber equipment in our research facility in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. So.
Now, the seminar that you're going to be leading deals with basically turf and the problems that one comes across from weathering and rain, sun, and all the other things happen. What are the main hurdles that you have to clear in working with turf like this?
Well, one of the main hurdles was, again, confirming the test standards that were used for the market, and so that took a little while because we've confirmed that the basic standards of testing methods that were used were basically a FIFA standard, and there's a DIN spec that also is a reference to how you're going to test, again, color for fade. And there's references in their test procedures that say after so many hours of testing what the physical properties need to be and the type of color change that would still be adequate for the market. So we did that, but there was just that feeling that there was insufficient information there. And there's limited work that's been done in regards to correlating exactly what we refer to as accelerated weathering, because that's what most people want to do. You want to do accelerated testing, and then predict what the performance is going to be for 10 years outdoors in a multiplicity of atmospheres or conditions.
So you put it through a test, and that test will duplicate 10, 15 years, whatever.
That's what the test is supposed to do. That's what I said. What is lacking is still all the correlation data that you can predict what the literal performance is going to be if the product is weathered in Ohio, where you have freeze-thaw conditions, humid summers, and there are occasionally dry conditions, versus Arizona, which is again totally different from a standpoint of how much light. Cloudy days are very good for blocking sunlight, and sunlight is the destructive component that, again, affects polymers and pigments. So
I can see
it depends on where you are.
You must spend a whole lot of time on testing. I mean, I can see where Miami versus Maine versus Hawaii. I mean,
that's right.
You've got everything under the sun, literally there, and you need to make sure it works in all those places.
You either do that or you test to what you think are worst-case scenarios. Miami is sort of classified as a worst-case scenario because you have the high humidity and a lot of sunlight. Those are the conditions that you have to face primarily for weathering. And you do the same thing in Arizona. Arizona is dry, the exact opposite, but still that high level of sunlight. You don't get cloudy days, you get lots of sun. And that's what you want for, again, for long-term weathering properties.
Talk about the material that you're going to be talking about at your seminar.
Well, we're going to be talking about, again, this reference to some of the different tests that have been specified, the FIFA spec and the DIN spec. We're going to talk about some comparison of accelerated weathering that both of them use different test conditions. What we refer to as QUV, which is an ISO 4892-3 test condition, and Xenon Arc is an ISO 4892-2 test condition. So there's specific tests that you can go to, find chapter and verse on those, and all the conditions that you have to use to set your equipment up to be able to run those test conditions. So we want to talk about that, and then the merit and value of those, factors that they have considered or possibly not considered, and then talk about the results that we've seen in regards to color fade, to physical property retention, and I think that's not just something that's applicable for synthetic turf applications, but it could be of interest to people who are selling carpet for whether it's an interior exterior application, floor mats and everything else that you think about for this type of market.
So it sounds like this would be a good place for people in the turf business, and then the carpet and not in the turf business.
Yeah, anyone who has some interest in or some specifications that they need to think about in regards to any accelerated weathering. Because accelerated weathering, there's specifications for interior automotive, whether it's the upholstery on the car, which could be polyester upholstery seat covers, headliners. There's specific specs. There's carpets, for nylon thick carpet that's going to be on the floor of your car. There are specifications that go back to weathering.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
Larry, we're in your color room. What do you call this room?
Oh, that's what we call it, a color room.
Color room. Well, that's good. Hey. How do you use this room? If a customer comes in, how would you basically use this room?
Well, this room was set up to invite customers to come in because you have a wealth of colors in here, full range of colors for, again, floor covering applications, carpet applications, and what I'm holding here is basically something that we're going to look at for cut pile applications. So everything that you have in here will be a card rep that you can look at for level loop So the card wraps are for level loops, so you can look at the side of the filament. And cut pile, you have to look at the end cut because the color is significantly different between the two. This is on this side, all polyester, and so that market has significantly increased over the last few years for, again, carpet applications. You have here a full range of cut pile applications, and that's going to be, again, for all three polymers that we're talking about in this room. Looking at now an area that is covers the nylon 6 card wraps. Again, everything is going to be for a palm, which will have the cut pile appearance, and then card wraps for the side views. The area that you're looking at now is for polypropylene. We still service all three types of business at this location. Most of what you're going to see is, again, for polypropylene is going to be 18 to 24 DPF. Same thing for nylon 6, nylon 6.6, but most of the cross sections for the filament in this room is trilobal, and everything is airjet texturized, and that's what these are all made from equipment that we have at Americhem in-house here. Again, the DPF for polyester is normally a little bit finer, something in the range of about 8 to 10 DPF. So denier for polyester is different than nylon 6 and polypropylene.
Now, the name of the seminar is Exposed to the Elements, the Impact of Weathering on Outdoor Product Durability. It's scheduled to take place on April 18th from 11 to 1. It's at the Trade Center here in town. And as I should mention, there's a lunch included, which would get me out there. And Larry, you'll be leading that. And I should say here too that you can contact Susan Ellis here in town at Americhem at 706-279-3465 and make a reservation for this. It's not. There's no cost involved, but they want to know how many people are going to show up. You can also reach this at americhem.com/americhemu. And Larry, it's great having you. You gave me quite an education here. I might even go to your seminar.
Well, please do.
And it was very exciting. Thanks very much. We'll have to do this again.
Okay.
We've been talking with Larry Campbell. He is Technical Development Director for Fibers, Engineered Materials, and Turf at Americhem. And this is Top Floor TV.